Yes, Nikhil, please
Hello,
start.
hello everyone. So today we have all gathered together for the seminar on written communication skills for chartered accountants, organized by the Professional Skill Enrichment Committee. So I'm the host today, CA Nikhil Vasant, Secretary of Tuticorin branch of SARCF ICI. So this meeting has been organized by the Professional Skills Enrichment Committee, along with the Tuticorin branch of SARCF ICI. I welcome CA Dr. Anuj Goyalji, Chairman, Professional Skills Enrichment Committee, ICI, and CA Shri Priya Kumar, Vice Chairperson, Professional Skills Enrichment Committee, ICI. And special welcome to our today's resource person, CA Pankaj Jain, and all the other management committee members of Tuticorin branch of SARCF ICI. I once again welcome all the participants of today's webcast. Hope you will have a good time here. Before beginning the session, I request the Vice Chairperson to address. Sri Priya Kumar, Vice Chairperson of Professional Skills Enrichment Committee, is a Central Council member during the period 2022 to 25 of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. She had earlier served as a Central Council member in 2016 to 19 and in the Southern Indian Regional Council in 2012 to 15 period. She is currently the chairperson of the Sustainability Reporting Standards Board, ICAI, and also the vice chairperson of the Professional Skills Enrichment Committee, ICA, and Corporate Laws and Corporate Governance Committee, ICI, and members of various non-standing committees of ICI. I request CA Sri Priya Kumar to address the participants.
Uh, Here's a very hearty good morning to all of you. And on behalf of the Professional Skills Enrichment Committee and Shri Anuj Goyal, Chairperson, he's stuck with something very urgent. He'll join us in a few minutes now. I extend a very warm and a very hearty welcome to all of you to this webcast on written communication skills for chartered accountants. The Professional Skills Enrichment Committee of ICI was constituted this year with the primary objective of developing soft skills for chartered accountants. Many of us have done our GMCS courses, but many of us have not. Now, after the advent of our professional journeys, whether in practice, whether in industry, or whether in entrepreneurship, there's been very limited capability to attend structured training programs on skills which are very important for us. So some of these skills are communication skills, leadership skills, thinking skills, emotional intelligence, design thinking. And this is the primary objective of the committee this year. My apologies if it's a little noisy here because I'm at the 50th anniversary of a firm in Chennai and I had to participate, so I'm outside. So this is the primary objective of the committee. And how do we hope to deliver this? We hope to deliver this message to our members through a series of webinars. Can you please ask them? Can you ask them to keep going? Yeah, through a series of webinars. Then we've developed 30 hours of structured training modules on various topics. So for these 10 webinars on 10 series on structured topics, we are actually sending the packs to the branches. The branches can engage their own HR trainers to conduct these workshops. You're going to hear a lot more from us. And I also extend a very warm welcome to CA Pankaj Jain, who's here with us to walk us through written communication skills for chartered accountants. We've had earlier webinars on public speaking and a whole lot of other topics. Now, interestingly, as chartered accountants, we need to have this skill almost daily, and how we write is also some part of what we are. So I'm sure this webinar will be really helpful to everybody in our professional journeys. And I also wish to place on record a special thanks to the event enablers of the day, which is CA Nikhil Vasant and CA Mahendran from the Tuticorin branch of ICI. So we thought, what is the huge thing about running these programs unless we can get our own chartered accountants to come and participate in these as event enablers? And hence this idea was actually proposed by the chairperson, and I was very happy to take this on board. And so it's a very hearty gratitude to both Nikhil Vasant and to Mahendran for being here as the event enablers for today's program. So, and here's wishing you all a great year ahead. And we hope this seminar is of use to you. And if you have something nice to say or anything to say, please do leave it on the comments section. There will also be a Q&A. And we look forward to your feedback and your appreciation to take things forward further. So thank you very, very much. And it's over back to the event enabler of the day, CA Nikhil Vasant. Thanks, Nikhil.
Thank you, Shri Priya. So next, the address by the chairman of the committee, CA Dr. Anuj Goyal, Central Council Member 2022-25 of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, qualified FCA, FCS, FCMA, MCOM, LLB, PhD, DISA, DARM. Besides that, he's 6-time Central Council Member, ICAI, Chairman, Professional Skills Enrichment Committee, ICAI, Chairman, Ethical Standards Board, Convener, Publication and CDS Director, ICAI. Vice Chairman, Sustainability Reporting Standards Board, Vice Chairman, Tax Audits Quality Review Board, and members of various non-standing committees of ICAI. He's a dynamic Central Council member who's always with the prime objective to serve the members of ICAI at large and always stand with and for the members of the ICAI. He had earlier served as a chairman, CARC of ICAI, in other positions of CARC, and chairman in the Ghaziabad branch of CARC of ICAI before joining to the ICAI Council. We welcome you, sir. I request CA Anuj Goyal ji to address the participants.
And just before he starts, I must add that Anuj Goyal ji has been spending a whole lot of time on this particular committee. Anytime I call the secretary, he says, I'm sitting with the chairman. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of action this year in the next 6 months. And we'd like all the branches to please help us to carry this message forward. And we'd like every single chartered accountant, the 450, to see how you can help us and participate in these programs. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Sri Priya ma'am. The way Sri Priya ma'am is putting her best as vice chairperson of this very, very important committee. For the first time, it has come into existence to enrich the best of the accounting professionals of the world, the chartered accountants. The further how we can try to help out our honorable members to enrich their skills. I think something really great by Sri Priya ma'am. And this very, very important webcast on written communication skills. I think formal communication skills are the need of hour for all of us. That how we can really so that how we can contribute in the best possible manner, how our drafting can be the best, how our communication can be the best, and the written communication is that which is needed in a great way for a chartered accountant, because through written communication we are communicating to the outside world, practically in each and every part of the world, using technology also. And as practically we are having a distance learning education, we are now having the classroom education. So to great extent, as an institute, we have never hand-holded the members of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India in this aspect of the written communication. We are having the best of the chartered accountant, Mr. Jain, to help us out in this very, very important skill for the chartered accountants. And I'm quite confident, as he is having vast experience of practicing consulting in the bigger firms in a great way. So he will be the best person to let us know about the intricacies of the written communication and how we can try to enhance this skill in the best possible manner. I am really grateful to all the event enablers, our very, very prominent branch of the southern part of the country, and its office bearers to act as event enablers. And I'm quite confident with the help and support of all our honorable members who are present us. I think around 2,000 members are there from each and every part of the country, outside the country, for this very, very important session on the written communication skills. I will not be taking your further time, as we are very, very eager to hear our honorable guest speaker. I once again grateful to our honorable event enablers and Mr. Jain, our honorable resource person, and Sri Priya ma'am, our honorable vice chairperson. And I once again welcome all our honorable members from each and every part of the world for being part of this very, very important VCM. Thank you. Thank you very much, friends. You are on mute.
Thank you, sir. So with your guidance, the committee can reach its greater heights. Written communication skills are those skills that use written words to deliver your point. While it may have features similar to verbal communication skills, there are some significant differences. Verbal communication relies on body language and your voice tone and the place where you speak to deliver the information. Written communication skills use grammar, punctuation, and words, which is a driving factor of the communication. For a written communication to be effective, ensure it is clear, concise, and complete. If you want to develop your written communication skills, you need to practice writing and give attention to details. Written communication is the most important and the most effective of any mode of business communication. As we all chartered accountants, we very well aware of this. Writing is an essential communication skill, and professionals in every walk of life will be assessed on their ability to convey information clearly in written form. So today's session is important to us, to each every one of us, to enrich our written communication skills in our future endeavors. This is even more relevant for us chartered accountants, whether it is defining the terms of reference for an engagement, seeking data from clients, documenting our work papers, especially in this era of peer review, which is every each and small micro firms are undergoing, drafting minutes, writing reports. In all of this, we need to be effective to be efficient. And hence we have this today's session. I request CA Mahendran, Treasurer of Tuticorin branch of SCRCIV ICI, to introduce the speaker, our CA Pankaj Jain, before his deliberation starts. Over to you, Mahendran.
Good morning, everyone. I am here to introduce our today's speaker, CA Pankaj Raj. He is a partner in EY LLP, India's indirect tax practice, and is focused primarily in verticals of industrial, infrastructure and consumer products, oil and gas manufacturing, and defense. He joined EY LLP in 2017 and is based in the Gurgaon office. He is a qualified CA and also a qualified lawyer. He has an experience of more than 16 years in advisory and consulting. Pankaj has also led ERP implementations projects for companies having operations across India. Pankaj has assisted various companies in determining entry strategy, marketing strategy in the Indian market from all indirect tax laws perspectives. He has handled various review assignments to determine savings and exposure areas for various multinational companies. He has been advising companies operating in oil and gas sector as well as defense in initiating operations, setting up processes, obtaining statutory approvals in India from all indirect tax laws perspective. He has advised and assisted various clients in streamlining business processes. Thank you. Over to Nikhil.
Sorry. We have a separate question and answer session at the end of the speaker's deliberation. Request the participants to type their questions during the course of the session, which will be summarized and will be discussed later. Over to you, CA Pankaj Jain. Sir, please take over the session.
Sure.
Welcome, Pankaj Jain. Anuj Goyal.
Thank you, Anuj. Thank you, the professional committee which has been incorporated under your chairmanship. Thank you, Samit ji, Nikhil ji, Supriya ji, Shri Priya ji. So basically, thank you so much for organizing this session. As the name of this committee talks about, professional skills enrichment committee. I mean, when we talk about the professional skills, I have no doubt about it that the people over here are very much conversant with their profession of making the balance sheets, interpreting the law. But how I feel, am I audible? Okay. So how I feel is the entire chartered accountant community, where we, I mean, okay, so we appears to be more knowledgeable. I mean, and we are very knowledgeable people. But the point is where the knowledge lies. So, I mean, if I ask the simple question, where the knowledge lies, everybody say the knowledge lies in head. But how I say is the knowledge lies in your tips, the what you write and what you speak. In case you are not able to speak properly, in case not you're not able to write properly, means you're not able to communicate properly. So अब आप देखिए, the communication is so important that सबसे ज्यादा divorce दुनिया में इसलिए होते हैं, there is no communication. So therefore the communication is very important. So today what we will be talking about is how should we communicate, what are the things which should be included in the communication. So everybody communicates. The baby who born, the 1 month baby also communicate in his language, and the old age person who is 78 years old or 80 years old also communicate. We all communicate with each other. The only thing which make a difference is the tricks, the tips and the techniques which we use in communication. So today we would be discussing all those things. Maybe because of technical glitch I'm not able to present my screen. Samit ji, can you just display the deck so that we can start talking about more on this in detail. Till the time Samit ji presents the screen. So I just wanted to talk about that, how important the communication is. As I said, as per I was surprised with the guidelines which have been issued sometimes by ICAMR, which talks about that 70% of the deaths in the hospitals are because of the communication gaps. Titanic na डूबता अगर communication proper होता. The wars would not have been there if the communication would have been proper. Samitji, the slide which talks about with the name of professional skills, the other slide, this other slide deck. The deck with professional and social etiquette. Samitji, the deck with, yeah. So basically, therefore, the communication is so very important, that how would we communicate. So today I would be not only capturing what are the words we should use to communicate, we should also be discussing the formats which we use, the language which we use, the all the things which we should incorporate in each thing, so that effective communication can happen, so that the email can be proper. Samriji, would you be displaying the screen? Yeah. Okay. So so basically, let's go to the drafting and the business writing skills. So in this, what we would be covering is the next slide. So what we'd be covering is the type of the communication, the 6 C's which we should understand, the referencing which we should be making, the fundamentals of drafting, the email drafting, the memo drafting, the submissions to tax authorities, the formatting and the potential risk phrases from client communication. So that is what we would be discussing in this slide deck. Samiji, can you go to the next slide? Yeah. So inclusion and importance of every communication is very important. It is purposeful piece of writing that provides a relevant information to somebody who is reading it. So it has to be clear. Your communication has to be clear. Your communication has to be correct. Your communication has to be easy to understand. What are the types of business writing which we would be talking about is the email writing, the memo, the proposals, the engagement letters. Yeah. The importance. Sorry, can you go to the previous slide, please? Yeah. The importance of the communication is to reduce the chance of miscommunication. The importance of communication is to reduce the chance of miscommunication, so that what you communicate becomes very different. You know, it is important that there should not be any miscommunication, so that whatever you want to communicate to your client, to the tax authorities, to anyone else, should be very clear. The language should be easy, the grammar error should not be there. It should be effectively written to boost the brand reputation, so everybody carry their own personal brand. So that has to be there, that it should not be like the writing skills what you are using should debar, or should not, the words which you are using should be correct as a profession, which are accepted in the professional world. Now can you go to the next slide? So now we are talking about types of communication in a consulting environment. As we talked about, there could be an email which you can send to your clients. There could be a correspondence with the regulatory authorities which you would be giving. There would be a reports which you are writing, advice, opinions which you are giving, articles in a business journal, proposals, engagement letters, and then the PowerPoint, slide deck, memorandum. So these are the types of communication, or a type of communication what we will be talking about. Next slide. Now, what is the effective writing? So we have talked about, okay, there is an importance of the communication. We have seen that what we have to take care of while doing that. Now, what are the effective, or what are the basics which we should know while we should creating that communication or creating that email? So we should know who is our target audience. It become very different if you're talking about, you're writing an email to a global tech head versus you're writing to a email to a tech head in India. So it is important to know the target audience. It is important. The second point is important to think before you write. So sometimes people have an habit to write instead of thinking and then writing. So it is important to think and then write. There has to be a clarity on the documents on which we are writing. Choosing the words effectively is also been very important. Whether deliverable is a draft or a preliminary discussion is important. So it is a preliminary discussion document, or it is a draft, or it is a final document what we are delivering. So accordingly we can choose our words, we can choose the length of the document. So if it's a preliminary document, it could be small. If it's a detailed report, it should be bigger. Avoid use of excessive qualifier like rather, very, little. So we have this qualifier in the next slide also, we'll discuss on that. Do not make unsupported promises, claims of not to use superlative that cannot be proved. So that is something which we need to ensure while we are writing. Ensure that appropriate scope limitations, caveats are used while you are delivering the document. So being a professional chartered accountants, being a firm, we also need to ensure while delivering, while we are communicating everything to our client, advising our client, it is also important to write as a scope limitation that what has not been covered. Because our document, once it is been issued to the client, goes at different levels. So it is important that the client should also know, the person, those who are using that document should also know that what has not been covered. So points to consider, which you see in yellow, is that read the sentence aloud, remove everything apart from the essential information. It is not necessary to write all the information, make so therefore it become detailed. Remove that information which is not relevant. Can the sentence be made into two without losing the importance of it is important. So making the small sentence in the document is very important. Sometimes we have seen people start writing a paragraph, and the paragraph is only having a single sentence. So a single sentence is of a 5 lines. So it is important to break that into different pieces so that it become easier for the reader to understand that. So these are some basics which we should understand, which we should opt before we write. Next slide, please. So now 6 C's, or which is to be followed while writing any communication, whether it is a proposal, engagement letter, advice. One is clarity. The proposal or a document or an email which we are drafting should have a clarity in it. when I say the clarity in it, the more smaller sentences which we would use make the document more clear. It should be concise. It should not running into pages. So if you write and suppose you write an email which is into 15 pages, nobody's interested. In this dynamic word, people understand is whatever you want to say or want to communicate with two lines. So it is important that two lines, that 5 lines which we write, or it should be concise. It should be, the consistency should be there. It should not be you're talking about section 23 of the act and then you move to section 27. There has to be a linking. It should be consistent. So I mean, it should not be like talking about GST Act, there is a problem, and then you start talking about the Income Tax Act or some other act. There has to be a relevance to it. The other point, which as a 6 C's, which we should follow is the courtesy. So when we are writing in a professional environment, we cannot go right blunt. There has to be a courtesy basis which the language should be written. Even if we have to communicate a bad message, we have to communicate something which has not been done properly by somebody whom we are communicating, we should have a courtesy to write or tone down our language. So that is also something which has to be worked out. So we have seen in emails or the communication going on in a harsh manner, so which is not acceptable professionally. So we have to put in that courtesy in it, correctness. So whatever we are writing, we should ensure that basis our document, some decisions can be taken by somebody, or some calls or some business decisions can be taken by somebody. So the correctness has to be there. So whatever we are writing, we have to ensure, we being a knowledgeable person, we being the experts of the tax laws, of the finance laws, of the entire gamut of the business, finance, and accounting. So we should ensure that whatever we are writing should be correct. Correctness should be checked. The last but not the least is the completeness. So if suppose you are writing an email and you leave something behind and it's not giving a proper message, does not make any sense. You have written something, if it does not make any sense out of what the context in which what you want to communicate, then how the person who is receiving that document will be able to understand. Therefore it is important for us to have a complete documentation. The completeness has to be there. So these are the 6 C's or the principle which we need to follow before we go ahead with the any complete documentation, any complete email which we send out to the client. Next slide, please. So this is what we discussed, that clarity, consistency, uh, conciseness, courtesy, the correctness, the completeness. So this is all we have already discussed. Maybe we can do the next slide. So now we were talking about the clarity, the style, and the tone. This is very essential part of the entire communication. There has to be a clarity in the document. The style and the tone of document is also very important. Sometimes several words are being used to express thoughts or actions when one word can work effectively to it. So we have to be concise as we discussed earlier. So we have to use those words, phrases specifically, effectively, so that it should not be, a big document and the person who is reading get bored out of it. We should use smaller words instead of the bigger sentences to communicate the same thing. If it need to be concise, this is, don't use the 3 words when you can use a single word out of it. So this is about the conciseness or a cutting unnecessary phrases or a documentation. The second part is writing topic sentences so that somebody can understand what is that you want to communicate. So for example, the subject of the email becomes very important. The topic of the sentence must highlight the main idea of the entire email. Or if there is a paragraph in which you are dividing, suppose you are writing an appeal. So in an appeal memo, if you are writing different paragraphs, so the topic of every paragraph should be there, that the person who is reading it, whether the AO is reading it, whether the Commission Appeals, Tribunal, High Court who are reading it, can make it understood that okay, this is the topic and these are the paragraphs under the topic. So he is able to understand what is that you want to say under that paragraphs. So writing a topic of any sentence, any paragraph, any email becomes very important. Now the courtesy tone which we are talking about, that even you have to communicate a bad message, the courtesy tone has to be there. Tone describes the strength of your expression. Business writing must have the proper tone to ensure it is effective. Therefore, the tone of the email has to be in a professional manner. You cannot write bluntly on the message. You cannot write specifically, you know, for example, you cannot say that without application of mind you have done that. So we have to say that, okay, you have said this without knowing it, rather than saying that without application of mind. So these are the words we should avoid. We should use our tone properly while writing. Clarity writing is writing. Clarity writing is writing on which the reader can act after signing, after a single reading. So this is very important. You know what we have written in a yellow part. Clear writing is a writing which the reader can act after a single reading. If the reader has to read the document through times, three times, so basically that is something which the document is not very clear. So it is also important you please read the document first and then send it out, rather than sending a document out after writing. Because if the reader is able to read the document once and is able to understand, that is an important that is a document which is a clear document. Yeah, next slide. So if you see, below are the words what we are talking about, that we have to use the small words instead of using the phrases. If you see, in accordance with the request, what can be the substitute of it? As requested. In respect of the matter of, regarding, we can use regarding out of it. Make a reference to, rather than writing a make a reference to, we can write refer to. With the expectation of, we can write expect. Reason is because, we can write because. You know, suppose we are writing in as much as, instead of writing as much as, we can write as, in the sentence. So these are some of the words which we can, the phrases which we can avoid and use a single word, which will simplify the document, which will have more clarity in the document, which will bring more, style and tone on the document, so that it would be easier for the user also to read. As we discussed in the earlier slide, that it is important to understand who is your reader. And always anybody who's reading a document should want the document which he's reading should be simple and clear. So rather than using the phrases, we should try using the single words instead of it. For example, the last line which talks about attached here to, generally we write attach here to, attach herein. So we can generally use attach instead of using the attach here to. Obviously it would be attached here to only to an email. Next slide. So other important thing is the referencing to the document. The referencing is not the same as reading. When we write a document, you have to read what you have written, and then you have to check the names, the numbers, the referencing. So at time it happens, you are writing annexure A in the document, then annexure B, annexure C, and then again it become annexure A. So the referencing has to be proper. Otherwise, the person who is reading the document does not know that it's a mistake or you have written knowingly. So he get lost out of it. So referencing in a document, para 1, if it is para 1, then if you're writing a sub para, it should be para 1.1. If you're writing a sub para, it should be para 1.1.1. We all read case laws, we all read the Bear Act. So these are very well referred. The referencing is very very proper in these type of laws and the case laws. But we forget doing such type of references when we are preparing a document. So it is very important to read the document after writing and check whether the referencing is proper or not. So 1, 2, 3, 4, the paragraphs numbering should be there. The sub paragraph should be properly mentioned. The sub paragraph should be properly mentioned. If we are using the reference of the above paragraph in the below email or in the below proposals or below memo, so it should be properly referred, that para 2.1.3 or para 5.5.6. So these referencing has to be proper. The grammar checks has to be done. spell checks has to be done, the repetition of the word should be avoided. And very simply you can use treasures. I mean, nowadays there is a lot of technology which is available to avoid the repetition of the words, so we can help using those you know technologies so that the referencing should be avoided. Appropriateness of the referencing in the information is very very important. So this is what we wanted to communicate to you with respect to this slide, that the referencing of the words is very important, which we should continue doing the referencing of. Next slide. So some referencing tip: check the punctuation, check the website link provided in the footer to ensure the accuracy. Sometimes it happens that we copy paste the website in the referencing, but when we click, it does not take us through to that link or to that page or to that site which we intended to mention. So it is important to check that. Check the language and the numbering of the documentation, financial year, assessment year, paragraph which you talk about. Check whether the glossary covers all the abbreviations. So sometimes we are very conversant of, I may write RCM payment. So if the accounting person, he may think it differently. Tax person may say it is a reverse charge mechanism. So I belongs to tax, I talk about RCM means reverse charge mechanism. The audit person, the person who does the internal audit, for him it is a responsibility, RCM responsibility matrix. So it is important you to mention, the same abbreviation can have different things. So it is important for you to mention whatever abbreviation we are using in the document. Look the overall content. Are you satisfied with the grammar, how the ideas have been linked all together? Have you been sufficiently specific? Have you addressed the topic or answered the questions made in the point you intended? Do you feel you have the right language? Is there anything that could be improved? Is something which you should talk about yourself, that okay, if we are sending this document out, it is sent out forever, so somebody is reading the document should make the impression of me basis the reading of this document. So it is important to see that whether every language, what we want to communicate, what has been mentioned in the paragraphs, what has been mentioned in this are correctly captured or not. Yeah, next slide. So as we discussed, these are the fundamentals of drafting, that you should think about the organization. You should think about defining your purpose, why you are drafting, knowing your audience. So these are the three fundamentals of drafting. Before you draft, you should know all these things so that it become effectiveness of your drafting. Organization: information should be properly linked and in proper flow. Relevance: information should come first. So this is organizing the way you draft. Now defining the purpose. So what we call is three W's. What are you writing? Why are you writing? Whom are you writing? So it is important to understand what are you writing. What are you writing means what is the context on which you are writing. Why are you writing? You want to communicate to him about the as an advice. You want to counter what he has said. The language would be different, or you want to inform him as a general. So the tone, the set of words which we are using become different. So it is important to understand when you are drafting these three W's and to whom you are writing. I mean, to whom you're writing is also relevant to the audience to whom you're writing. So anticipate your audience is a key to effective writing. So if you anticipate that, okay, this is my audience whom we are writing. So the audience, for example, if you're preparing some advice or you're preparing some document to somebody who is in a school who would be reading the document and will understand your tax advice, say, for example, would be different. If you're giving that document to somebody overseas, out of India, the language which you use will be more generic and will be different. The somebody who is in India and very versed about the tax laws, for example, is a tax head or a tax leader in India, the language and the words and the context which you are using would be different. So it is important to understand who is your audience before we write and communicate actually. So these are the fundamentals of drafting, what we should understand and know. Next slide. So these are the general pointers to remember, before we send out an email to the client. Order in which the people to be marked. It is something, in a professional word, you should mark the email from a senior to a junior. First, you have to mark to the client and then to your own firm. So generally, when we are writing an email to somebody, it would be like 10, 2, 3 people would be there from a client side, 2, 3 people would be there from our side. So it should be, decreasing order. So first to be marked to the CFO, then to the tax manager, then to the analyst of that firm, and then we should mark to the our team. In our team also we should follow the same practice, that we should mark it, to first to the senior person who's a partner in the firm, secondly to the manager, third to the assistant manager, so on and so forth. Avoid using red color. So generally we have seen that people started using red color in an email, not writing any writing doing the writing of an email, but when we receive an email, we do a reply to them. So we use a red font separating our color to a black color. Use black font, green font, some other yellow font, but using a red font is considered to be that as if you are angry. Generally internationally, red font is considered to be writing an email when you are not very happy, when you are angry. So avoid using red color font. So in as we talk about technology in all the computers, if you press shift F7 for any word, we can get the synonyms. So start using those synonyms and start seeing that whether I can use a better word instead of what I have written. So this is something, is a general point which should add up to it. Avoid using all caps, avoid using all small. So it has to be appropriately used. Never send angry or a harsh message or an email. Use approved picture or templates. There are some unapproved pictures, for your organization. Everybody has some approved pictures, so use those pictures only. And use proprietary font in form of all the deliverables shared with the client. So generally it has been not followed by anybody, except some big fours or some, tier one firms. We are sending an email, or our employees, our team are sending an email in whichever font they want. Fix one font, whether it is a Arial, Times New Roman, any font which you have finalized. Fix that font, and everybody in an organization of yours should be sending an email to the client in the same font. While it is not very important that a font can be anything, but it becomes, standardization. It becomes, if you are sending the communication to a same person repeatedly in a same font, shows well-being of the organization, shows the discipline of your organization. So use the appropriate proprietary font of your organization. Next slide. Okay, now we talk about email drafting. So email drafting, if you talk about, it has, 2 3 parts to it. One is, the the upper part of it is, one is below, one is the closing part of it. So if I divide, this entire email into different parts, there would be, one is salutation. When you talk about, you say hi, hello, you write specific names to it. Then the greetings, you talk about, hope your file, you're doing well, hope all is well, hope the email finds you well, hope, I mean, when we are writing this email, generally at a time of, festival, because India, there are a lot of festivals, we write an email near Diwali, near Holi, near, such type of festivals, near 5th Independence Day, Republic Day. We can also mention Happy Republic Day to you and your team, so on and so forth. Then there are connectors. So after writing that, salutation and a greetings, we have to connect it with the writing what we want to write. So that has to be very clear. Then there is a closing lines, that okay, should you require any clarification, we will be happy to provide the same, we will be glad to provide the same, and then there has to be signature. So this is a basic form of, basic part of the email structure. We will now go into the detail of it. Next slide. Yeah. So this become very important for us to understand how we write an email, because email is something which is mostly going out from our inbox on a daily basis. There are a number of emails which everybody sends out. So it is important to realize that what is the content and what we write and how we write the email. And this is the biggest mistake what I think the people do. They sometimes write one line an email, they don't close it properly, they don't connect it properly. So it is important for us. So if in the earlier slide what we have seen, salutation, greetings, connectors, body, closing line, signatures. So this is a sample email talking about salutation. So salutation means dear Mr. XYZ. So in the salutation, if you know that person, you can write dear. If you're first time writing, so suppose a male employee is writing to somebody who is a female employee in another organization for the first time. So should he write dear? Dear? No, he should write hi, hi Miss X. So this is how the salutation can be changed from dear to hi. Then the greetings has to be there. Hope you are well. Hope this mails finds you in good health and spirit. Hope you are doing well. I mean, so these type of greetings has to be there. Then the third part of it is the connector. So connector is generally, the standard lines talks about in order to proceed with the analysis from the regulatory perspective, may I request you to please help us in the following documentation. So this may, I mean, so or we can write with respect to the case which we are fighting it out for you in. So this is the connector which we are using to communicate what we want to communicate. Then we can communicate in below. So if you see in this, what we have already talked about, that referencing has to be there. So see, if this, instead of bullets I would have written a paragraph, so it would not have looked that impressive and it would have been monotonous. So it is, referencing is important. Just to give you an example, now the body of the email is there. After the greetings there is a connector and then is a body of email. Then there is a closing lines. So please do let us know if you would like to know what requirements and the details are there. We can connect you, we can connect back. So these are the closing lines so that anybody who is reading that email has that comfort to reach you out in case there is a problem he is facing. And there has to be signatures. Signatures are very important. I have seen people writing an email even without the signatures. Signatures are important because otherwise how would he know except the email name which is coming, that who has written an email, what is his phone number, which organization he is. So signatures are very important, very standard to be mentioned on the email. Nowadays if you see, the Outlook can be configured that the signatures can come automatically. Go to the next slide. So now that was an earlier was an email where we were asking the documents. No, this is our email, which again has a salutation, greeting, connectors, body, closing line, signatures, but it is a response email. So if you see, the language would be different. Language is dear, you can mention the greetings, whatever it is. Then the connector line is, at the outside, we would like to thank you for providing us an opportunity. So earlier we are asking the documentation. Now we are replying as a response to the email which you would have received. Like at the outside, we should thank you for providing us an opportunity uh, for the proposal to obtain the SVB order for your company. In this regard, as discussed, please find attached the document capturing the scope of work and our proposed fee. So now we want to communicate. Please find attached the scope of work and the proposed fee. So that becomes a body of an email. So in this case, if you see, again, it is earlier email was with respect to taking the information. This email is with respect to providing the information in response to the email which has been received earlier. In this case, the email was that, okay, thank you for, and go ahead with the SBB proposal. And then there are closing line, let us know your thoughts. So the closing lines become different as compared to the email which was there earlier when we are asking a document, in which we say, in case there is any challenge of the understanding, we are able to answer you. But in this such type of emails where we are responding, the language becomes different. Like we talk about in this, we have seen, if you see, we have mentioned, let us know your thoughts, look forward to working with you. So this is the response email. Next slide. Now this is what we have talked about, the emails. Now this is a memo drafting. So memo drafting is something, advice what we give to the client. It is again very crucial and very important to draft the memo properly. The reason why I'm saying so to draft the memo properly is also because this is the memo which will go out, whenever it's an advice which we are giving to the client. So there has to be some specific things which should include in the memo as well. For example, the memo should have a background and understanding. Why it is important to have a background and understanding is because on that background and understanding only we are able to provide the advice, right? So it is important to have a background and understanding in the memo at the first place. Then issues to be addressed and the objective of the memo. Then the executive summary or the summary and our comments in detail. So generally we have seen it is divided into four parts. One is the background or understanding. The second is the issues, what is to be captured as a question, what have been asked. The third is the summary, and the fourth is comments. Sometimes people may ask that why we want a summary specifically. So generally, if this memo goes to the senior people, they generally don't go into detailed comments. They generally read a summary. But if this memo again goes to text experts, those who go into the detail of the comments also. So it is important to mark both summary as well as comments. So these are the four, I mean, the four pillars of, these are the four parts of the memo. If you talk about four pillars of the memo is the flow, the language, the clarity, and the formatting. So these are the four pillars of the memo. One should remember that whatever we are giving, because the memorandum or advice, whatever we give, is very important. So one should remember that whenever we are giving the case law should be given along with the citation. Mere mention of a legal provision is not sufficient. We should rather demonstrate how it applies to the current facts rather than giving just, so personally I mentioned that, okay, rule 28 of the GST rules, there is a proviso which talks about anything which has been transacted on an arm's length price by a related party would be considered as a market price. But that's a provision. Now how I have to relate it with my client, that okay, my client is doing a transaction with a related party. My client is doing a transaction on the price which is not an arm length price, but because of this proviso, my the client has taken a price, this is this, which should be considered as an arm length price. So we have to connect the provisions with our client need, so that there is a clarity in whatever we are wanted to communicate. Whenever this a conclusion cannot be given, all possible solution with the precautions should be provided. So it is not only about the conclusion which is to be provided. It is at time happens that we are not able to provide the conclusions. If we are not able to provide the conclusions, then in that case we have to complete our memo with some specific points that okay, we are not able to conclude because the law is not clear, but these are the points which you can take into consideration. So this become important. So in the memorandum, again, coming back again to this, that background, then the issues, then the executive summary, then the comments. What we have to remember, what the four pillars are, we have already discussed. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, sorry. So if you see, this is a structure of a memorandum, give you an example of, benchmarking memo, which talks about whether the transaction is an arm length or not. So giving the definition of the applicability, giving a background of the objective, executive summary, summary of the functional and the risk profile, summary of the benchmarking, concluding comments, scope limitations. Again, the scope limitations become important as we discussed earlier as well, that what has been covered, what has not been covered. Then the annexure and the appendix to the analysis. Next slide. So these are the key takeaways with respect to drafting of the memo and the drafting of the writing skills, that conceptualize your thoughts before writing. You should not write, you should not write for the sake of writing. Conceptualize the thoughts which have been there before you write. Prepare the notes to break all over ideas. Use active voice to an extent possible. Always keep in mind who is sending an email, who would be receive this email. Avoid repetition of the words. Read the memo or the email at least twice before sending it out. In second reading, you would definitely gonna pick up grammatical and articulation errors. In the first reading, probably you may apparently not be able to figure out the apparent errors, but in the second reading, definitely you're gonna figure out. So these are the key takeaways while drafting a effective communication. Go to the next slide. Now, submission to the tax authorities. Again, this is also a communication to the tax authorities, and that is become very important. Therefore, we have included this as well. So while we are submitting the applications, submitting the replies, submitting the appeals to the tax authorities, there is also something, a language we should follow, the protocols which we should follow. Writing on behalf of a client should include consistency in the manner of referring to the client. Either you refer it as SSE, applicant, taxpayer. You know, it should not be that somewhere you are mentioning the name of the client, somewhere you are mentioning him as an applicant, somewhere you are mentioning as an SSE. Typical language which we should use while writing or addressing to the authorities, that respectfully submit that, humbly we submit that, learned AO, the learned TPO, your good self, your good office, honorable bench. So these are the examples which we should use while drafting our submission to the tax authorities. Some of the other key pointers are to ensure that the information to be submitted should be in order of the notice. It should not be like referencing should be proper. It should be, the referencing should be in the form of in the same chronological order in which the notice has been issued. Reply to the show cause notice should also include all the factual and legal arguments. Very important. The prayer has to be there. I have seen some lot of appeals wherein we at a chartered accountant file and we say that okay, we have given the entire gamut of appeal memorandum, but we miss out mentioning what is the prayer, what is the conclusion, what is our request, what do we want out of this. So it is important in the last line we should conclude it by saying that okay, this is my prayer, this is my conclusion, this is the request which we wanted from your good office. So this becomes very important, the other part for the submission to the tax authorities. Yeah, next slide. So again, this is formatting, cover, font, header photos, bullets, indenting, numbering, alignment, sentence spacing, italicize whatever you are quoting or verbatim been written, appendix, page breaks, abbreviations. So everything we have to check box and say okay, yes, in my document everything is correct. So this all we should ensure that is correct in our document. Next slide. Can you move to the next slide, please? Okay, now it is also very important to understand when we talk about what are the risk and the potential risky phrases. So if you see, one should talk about would express conclusive, should express definitive view. I mean, so there's a difference between the use of the word would, should, may, could, and can. To give you some of the examples, if you read to the second part of this slide, it talks about assuming there is a non-compliance, the tax authorities will also levy penalty on the same. Rather than saying that will also levy, assuming there is a non-compliance. So we are saying that assuming there is a non-compliance, we should not use the word will levy the penalty. We should use the word may levy the penalty. In the same way, if you talk about assuming that the exemption notification there is available to the person, this income should be exempted in the hands. So when we are saying that this is should be exempted, we may say it may be exempted. When we are saying assuming it is available, so rather than using the word should be exempted, we should use may exempt, would exempt. Now it is not important that everywhere you use the word will should not be used, it should be may. Sometimes it happens that you may use will also, but depending upon the context of the scenario. So it is important, very important to use these words very carefully. If you see the last part of the example, it talks about based on our above analysis, there is a good case to argue with the exemption may be available to a person. So we are talking about it's a good case to argue that the exemption may be available to a person. But The correct sentence should be, now you're saying maybe, but now it is the other way around. We are saying it should be should be, because why I'm saying should be, based on our analysis, I am giving a confidence to my client that based on our analysis, there is a good case to argue that the exemption should be available. Because if I say maybe available, why the client will come to me? So it depends upon, when we are saying, we should say it with firm confidence. We should use the words like should. But when we are talking about some other third party, we may use the word may, right? So these are the potential risky phrases which we have to use very carefully. Next slide. So these are some of the examples of potential risky phrases. Like we generally mention that very high standard. For example, we say that the phrase would increase, how applicability of the professional and technical standard. So okay. So in this, what we wanted to communicate is, rather than using very high standards, suppose I say that I will provide you or deliver you a presentation with very high standards. So nobody knows what is a very high standard. You are putting yourself in a risk. Rather than saying that, you should say with the applicable professional and technical standards. We are the professionals. We should talk about professional and technical standards, rather than saying somebody that we will provide you with a very high standards. So avoid using such type of a potential risky words, because in the courts, if you have written that with very high standards cannot be measured, then there could be a problem with you. Expert and specialized. So rather than mentioning that we are the experts, we are specialized, we should use the word we are professional. We are the professional. We will provide the services more professionally. Rather than saying that we are expert, we are specialized, we will provide you specialized services, we should use the word professional services. We should avoid using the word like determine. We should use the word advise. We should not determine, we should advise. We should not use we will look at all aspects. So generally we say that, okay, I will go to your factory, I will look all the aspects. So if I write an email or write a communication saying that I will look all the aspects, somebody can catch hold of me to say that, okay, you have not looked at finance, you have not looked at HR, you have not looked at IT, or you have not looked at admin policy, fire policy. There are various agendas, various uh, areas where somebody can look at. Rather than saying that we will look at all the aspects, we can say that we will review some of these five aspects, or we will review your tax positions. So to your satisfaction, the another example which we have seen, somebody is writing to your satisfaction. So rather than writing to your satisfaction, we should write as per the proposal or as per the agreement, rather than writing over to the satisfaction. So these are the some of the potential risky phrases which we should avoid. Best possible scenario, we should provide you the best possible. We should implement, we should assist and implement, rather than we should say that we should implement, we should assist and implement. Next slide. Again, these are some of the phrases which we are talking about. I think next slide. Yeah, these are the phrases. So can you go to the next, next deck? I think this deck is over. Maybe we talk about the next deck now. So I have one more deck in which we will, just talk about that. What are the power of the words? I'll show you some examples about, what are the power of the words which you will talk about. So next slide. Samriti, there's one more presentation which is there. Can you open that instead of this? Maybe we can take it up later. Okay. So now we are talking about the soft skills, about leadership skills, teamwork skills, communication skills, problem solving, work ethics skills, flexibility, adaptability, interpersonal skills. So now we will be talking about this as well. So maybe on the next slide, as we talk about communication to the client, to the authorities, to the collegiate, to the seniors, this is what we have seen. Next slide. So, so we will go this slide in a bit brief about what are the tips when we are receiving a call. You know, identify yourself to the caller. If you're making a call, or receiving a call, identify yourself to the caller. Use present, pleasant, and the professional greetings. Your mood could be haywire. You are happy. You are sad. You are somewhere else. You are happy. You are angry, but it's something which is not known to the person who is calling you. So you have to be pleasant and you have to be giving him a professional greetings. Response appropriately to the caller, give a verbal cues, take notes if required. So this is the tips to be there for the telephone taps for receiving a call. Yeah, next slide. Now, sometimes we place a call on hold and then we forget it. So, as a standard, we should not keep the call on hold for more than a minute. And before keeping a call on hold, we should always ask the person, can we keep your call on hold? So these are some of the specific tips, while talking to somebody. Call transfer, inform before forwarding, or brief before connecting to somebody. It's not that you just, merge the call. Inform that you are calling somebody else and taking him on a call. Also inform somebody whom you are taking on a call that I am connecting you with somebody, so that everybody is prepared. Next slide. Take the call in the low but audible tone. Do away with the ringtones and the caller tones at work. Sometimes it happens that people are having very fancy ringtones in their phones which they are used as an for an office work. So it is to be avoided. If it is an important call, step outside and schedule a area to return to a call, because it cannot be that you are sitting with, in a meeting with 10 people and you start taking a call. Means that you are disrespecting the people those whom you are sitting with. Maintain a distance of at least 10 feet from the nearest person when talking on a cell phone. Do not wear an earpiece or an attachment in a business situations. Record the professional messages for receiving a voice message. So these are some of the phone etiquettes. Next slide. Now, conference call. So we, in a COVID time, we have been attending a lot of conference call. We have been attending a lot of Zoom meeting. So so this is important that you should start a call on a scheduled time. You should announce whenever you're joining in, rather than just join in without saying that I have joined in. You should announce or said, okay, this is Pankaj from EY has joined in. So while in a Teams environment, in a Zoom environment, somebody can see that you have joined in, but still it's a responsibility, because somebody maybe listening somewhere else, or he's not attentive. So you should announce always when you have joined in. Outline the objective of the call. It's always important to outline the objective, give the occasional verbal cues, pause periodically whenever the call is there. uh, Allow the other persons to speak. When they say that okay, they have spoken, then only you speak and address to the people by their name. Announce yourself before you speak. Do not interrupt. Avoid cellular phones, while doing this conference calls. There is a phone call which will come in, you go out, mute yourself. So this should be avoided. Next slide. So again, this is again the, how you communicate in the conference. Your mails are read, understood, and answered. Your mails are considered professional. These are success criteria of your emails. Receiver is clear about your email. There is no revert and clarification or interpretation issue. If that be the case, your mail is correct. You should addressing the feature. You should address to somebody who is relevant to be addressed. you are able to maintain a present tone and to avoid any misunderstanding is something which are the criteria which suggest that your mail is correct. Next slide. So we have already discussed more or less. Then these are the 10 tips of writing a good email, confirming that email is good medium of the message, address appropriately, choose an appropriate subject line, clear clearly section all the key points to do and not to do, respond to each point raised, use appropriate formatting, use correct salutation and the tone, avoid email framing, build a pyramid. Next slide. So while delivering a bad news, this is very important. So communication is important, but very important is how you deliver a bad news. So whenever there is a bad news, whenever there is a refund which has been rejected, which happens in all of our life, that refund get rejected, we got a negative order, the truck got stuck up, we are not, we have advised something which the court has taken a contrary view, there's a liability which has come in, the balance sheet which we have drafted, there is some, some issues. So if whenever there is a bad news, you have to deliver that bad news upfront rather than gumaing it, going into the circular, not mentioning the news correctly. Be upfront, deliver the news upfront, avoid the blaming statements, avoid hedging the words or words that sound ambiguous, maintain a positive resolve. Okay, if this has happened, so this is what we should do. This is very important to deliver a bad news. Next slide. So this is what we discussed, that deliver the news upfront. For example, we have put up a lot of effort to see if we can accommodate your request to reduce the timelines. I'm afraid we have not been able to find out the way to do so. So it's upfront news that we will not be able to reduce the timelines. Avoid blaming. Avoid using the words which are not very clear, that I'll do my best, intended to and purpose, possibly, most likely, perhaps, maybe. So these are the words which are not very clear, that what is that you wanted to say. So avoid those words, avoid blaming people, deliver it upfront. Yeah, next slide. Now respond to a flame. Don't respond immediately. So there could be there could be, sometimes you receive a message, you receive an email that that flare you up. So how to respond that situation? Sometimes you receive an email that you have done wrong to us, we will sue you, so what is that what you should do, what should you, how you should react? So first of all, first step is, first thing first, do not respond immediately, because as soon as you immediately respond, you will also respond in the same manner. So that will create a challenge. So you should not respond immediately. Emphasize that the sender's frustration and tell him they are right if they that is true. So emphasize, empathize with them, with their frustration. Explain what lead to the problem in the question. Avoid getting bogged down by details and minor arguments. Don't get into the minor arguments. If you are aware about the situation in the process of being resolved, let the reader know about at the top of the response. And last but not the least, apologize. If necessary, apologize with the respondent who has been flared up and has given you a wrong email. Yeah. So this is very important to respond to such type of emails. Yeah. Next slide. So we have already discussed interaction with authorities. Maybe we may now we can go to the next deck. Samit ji, can we go to the next deck which we have showed earlier? Yeah. So along with just to, as we are talking about business etiquettes, professional writing skills, We have discussed about the body of the language, the word which has to be used, not to be used, how should we communicate, what are the things to be remembered while writing a drafting a memorandum, while drafting a response to the department. Now it is also important that what we wear, how we carry ourselves. So business etiquettes and attire. So dressing for success, dressing sense is very important, and it is also important, I will spend 10 15 minutes to also, explain about what we wear, because that's a myth which is there, what is the professional dress, what is not a professional dress. So we'll take 5 10 minutes to talk about this as well. So maybe go to the next slide. So suppose these are the three person, whom would you hire? You would hire the person who is in a well dressed, right? So your attire is the first of the many elements that comprises your professional appearance and the personal brand. So professional attire, what we think? Okay, so there's a study which talks about that out of the 100%, it's only 7% which talks of, which is like the word which we use. Balance 93% is only on because of our body language and our appearance and the tone of the language what we use is what communicates to the some other person. So when we are communicating, it's only 7% from the words when we can communicate what we communicate. 93% is being communicated by our body language and our appearances. So our body language, our appearance is very important while we are communicating. So this was just an example to show you that whom should you hire. I mean, obviously the person who has been well dressed is something which whom you hire. So next slide. Maybe I'm skipping this slide. This couple of slides we talk about that business professionals for men and women. So what suits you wear? I mean, three-button suit. Which button should be tucked up? Which button should be unbuttoned? Shoes, belt, etc. We can move to the next slide. Yeah, and we can move next slide. So generally, these are not the business casuals which we talk about. So I mean, which I think we all know. Maybe next slide. I think Komalji is showing. Komalji, next slide. Yeah, next one. Yeah. So what is your personal brand and how do you create a strong personal brand? So if there is a people in the room and you enter into that room, you know, there are two type of persons. When you enter into the room and you say hi to everyone, and when you enter into the room, everybody say hi to you. So there are two type of persons. So you have to build your own brand so that when you enter into the room, if you want to be the second part of it, you enter into the room and everybody starts appreciating you. So you have to build your own brand, and how you build your own brand is something, you have to properly dress, you have to properly communicate. So I'll tell you one story. There was one person in our professional life. That person is not very knowledgeable, that person is not very rich. It's a medium person, but he talks very well. बहुत अच्छा बातें करता था वो. बट क्योंकि वो बहुत अच्छी बातें करता था, ही कीप्स ऑन सराउंडेड विद एवरीवन. सो कभी उसके पास कोई होता था, मतलब ही कीप्स ऑन सराउंडिंग विद एवरीवन जस्ट बिकॉज ऑफ हिज कम्युनिकेशन स्किल्स. ही यूज्ड टू कैरी हिमसेल्फ वेल. So his name was Gagan. So I mean, so this is what the personal branding is. It's not important कि आप knowledgeable हैं, it's not important कि आप पास बहुत पैसा है, it's not important कि आप किस पोजीशन पे हैं. द इम्पॉर्टेंट थिंग इज हाउ यू इंटरेक्ट विद द पीपल. आप कैसे सब सामने वाले की तारीफ कर रहे हैं, सामने वाला आपकी तारीफ कैसे कर रहा है, आप किस तरह से उसको कम्युनिकेट कर रहे हैं अपने स्किल्स को. दिस इज ऑल अबाउट इट. So we have to build our personal brand. Maybe to next slide, please, Komal. Yeah. So how the personal brand can be developed and what are the three key impression to this? One is the authenticity. Be yourself and be comfortable. Don't try to pretend. Don't go into the hypocrisy. You have to be authentic and to be yourself. Your professionalism is something which, demeanor and languages should be there. Smart and corrective language. Awareness. You should be constantly aware of what is going around. Remember that you are always being evaluated. So if you are following these three things correctly, you should be authentic, whatever you are doing, whatever, be yourself. You should be language, the communication what you're making is proper. The awareness, you are aware of the things, so definitely you're going to start creating your brand. So these are the three keys: impression management, what the person can do with respect to authenticity, professionalism, and awareness. Yeah, as we discussed, 93% of the communication is non-verbal, only 7% communication is verbal. So tactics to of making a good impression is, I mean, how you shake the hand. B is having a smiling face. Stand up straight and confident. There is a power position which you talk about. So had it been the case, it's a the practical session, I mean face to face session, I would have shown you. But the power position is the position wherein you stand straight with both the entire weight on both the legs, and then your hands are near the stomach, closed. So this is a power position. Stand in that position, be comfortable, make the eye contact, stand up straight, smile, and that would create your more personal brand. You will be liked by the people, because the way you communicate, the way you talk about is important. Next slide, Komal. So this is about communicating with professionals, interviews, what are the do's and the don'ts, and it is important also. One of the important thing which I would like to mention is that, when we are talking to anybody, instead of, we talked about writing skills, we talked about the emails. It is important also to know the people, know the person whom we are talking about. So it is about, if you know that person whom you are talking to, it become important for you to understand that person and make the conversation more purposeful, more in line with what you wanted to. So these are the do's and don'ts, probably, what we have already more or less we have covered, that what should we talk, what should we not talk. For example, what should we not talk? We should not talk about politics. Nowadays, since election is going on, central election, so somebody may like some specific party, somebody may not. So avoid getting into conversation which can which can be challenging, like talking about politics or talking about religion. Ask question regarding the personal compensation. Don't ask overly personal questions to anyone. So these are the don'ts specifically, and the do's are: be confident, always ask questions properly, treat everyone with the same level of the professionalism, and be specific in answering the questions you have been asked for. So these are some of the do's and don'ts while you are communicating to the persons. Yeah, so Komal, can you go to the video which has been shared? Yeah, so just stop the video. So see, I wanted you to see the video, and you will know what is the power of the words when we communicate. Yeah, Komal, please play it. I think voice is not there. Komal, if you can check. So actually, in this, if you see in the video, he has mentioned that I am blind. Please pay the money. He was not getting the money. People are going, passing away and just going out here and there. So they're just not waiting for him. So, but something has made a difference that with some quotation, everybody has started giving him a money. I am not able to hear the sound of the video, but then it is okay. I'm not sure if everybody's going to. So it talks about it's a beautiful day and I can't see it. So you see the power of change of your word can change the word. Change of your words can actually change the word. When the person is mentioning that I am blind, please pay, please support me. At that point in time, people were just ignoring it because they are very accustomed to it, and therefore they are not, giving him money at all. Or one or two passing by persons are paying him, the home as a courtesy, giving that blind person a money. With the change of the words, that this is a great day today and I'm not able to see it, you know that has created an impression on somebody, that therefore they have started, attracting the attraction of the person. So the change of the words can change actually the word. So therefore the words become very important. Yeah. So now I will tell you some five, some techniques of how to communicate. Okay, I will tell you some five strategies how to communicate. First is psychology. You know, we have to overcome our psychology. Suppose if there are 15 persons in a room, I will not go and speak in front of them. I'm afraid. हम सोचते हैं कि हम बोलेंगे क्या हो जाएगा, nobody knows me, how would it happen. So please overcome that, because अगर आप उनसे बोलेंगे नहीं, how would you come to know, how would you communicate, how would you create a relationship? In the chartered accountancy also, it is very important to create the network. If you are not able to create a network, you will not be able to succeed. The All the big people, all the successful people have the great networks. They communicate with each other. They have created that network for themselves, and they have made some good friends, which have actually helped them in getting more business for them, support for them in life. So therefore it is important for all of us to overcome the anxiety. you know Mark Zuckerberg has said that the biggest risk is not to take the risk. So why not to take that risk to talk to that person in that room? So the first principle of getting to this is overcome your psychological spirit. The second rule is, when we are talking about somebody or some person, the second is SST. Skip the small talks. So, for example, if you're talking to somebody, you say, how is the tea? He say, yes, okay, it's good. You will say, how was your vacation? The person will say, vacation is nice. You will say, how was your trip? He will say, yes, he is nice. It's nice. So avoid using such type of questions to the person who can answer in one line or so, in one word or so. Use the words like, have you what did you do in during your trip? How Instead of asking how was your holiday, ask what all activities you do in your holiday. So that will start connecting with the people there. That is what how you start connecting with the people. The third point of the effective communication is homophily. Homophily is something which is very commonly used important term. Suppose, for example, I give you an example, for that matter. I say that, okay, I am from Delhi, and now somebody says, I don't like Delhi. So start discussing with them what the person likes. Start preparing that what is the person's habits are. To give you an example, I was going, to Mumbai, and I met some person who is reading the books. I am also fond of reading the books. So I started talking to him. Okay, this is the book which I have also read. He said, I also read this book. We have started talking about it. So I've started, working on that homophily. He was aware. He was very fond of reading the books. I started talking to him on his hobby of what he likes of reading the books, and we become good friends. He is my friend till now, and he's a person who is posted in NTPC in a very good position, and he has referred me to many clients. So this is how we create our relationship. This is how we effectively communicate. Start appreciating the people. So somebody whom you are appreciating, and appreciate in a good manner. So this is also some one of the aspect of effective communication, and making your communication clear, and supporting getting more attention of the person whom you are speaking. So psychology, overcoming anxiety, SST means skip the small talks, homophily, appreciate, ask opinions. It's always better to ask opinions from somebody. So if you see, thought about parliament. So parliament, they are discussing, they are asking about the opinions. Suppose they are fighting, it does not make any sense. It's always important to ask people, engage with the people, why you want coffee, for example, express them. So these are the five specific parts of the effective communication: psychology, SST, homophily, appreciate, and ask opinions. So can you play the next video, please? Komal, this one move video, if you can play. Komal, are you playing the video? Yeah. No, not this one. This we have already seen, the one more video which you would be having. So I think Komalji, we have already seen this video. So Samitji, we have already seen this video. That's fine. So that is it from my side with respect to the effective communication. I'm happy to talk about what all you want me to ask as a question, and yeah.
Thank you, Pankaj. So for the simple and elegant presentation. So now we have some questions from the participants. I'll read one by one for you to answer.
Sure.
Question one, how do a CA manage governance communication in an organization?
Yeah. So basically, with respect to the governance communication, again, it become a very important to, such type of a communication which is specifically for the governance communication. So one has to be very, very, specific on the words and the phrases which we are using, very crisp, very clear on the thoughts. Because when we are writing, such type of communication which are going to the governance, going to different forums, so it is important to be very concise, very specific, and very presently mentioned with the very toned down presentation, very humbly been mentioned. So these type of words, techniques, and tips can be used for such type of communication.
Next question. Are there any online AI-based methods, techniques available to test and improve our written communication skills? We have got one more question with respect to AI. Using ChatGPT and modifying the same to suit the needs is also quite handy these days. What's your take on this?
So see, I have also know I know many of the such type of tools which are available in the market. So while I would say, I mean, it's good that we use such tools, but at times if you see, you type an email and you get an email from a Chat GPT or an AI tool, anybody who is reading that email can figure out that that email has been developed from that Chat GPT tool. So what my take on this is, while we can improve our language, while we can run past our message from a Chat GPT or from an AI tool, but we should also apply our sense, our mind, because everybody has his own style of writing. If I'm getting a letter from my subordinate who has used a Chat GPT, and if I'm aware that the Chat GPT has been used while drafting this out, so I will not be able to I'm not very interested in reading it, because it's not his language, his thoughts, his processes, or he has not put in his heart into it, but somebody who has written in that language himself. So my take on it is, while it is very handy, very much available on the portals, we can use some specific words, we can use the process which has been mentioned there, articulation which is there, we can use that articulation in our own language to an extent possible.
Yeah, that's well said. Like, if we write on our own, it helps the end user to understand us. Rather, they will be end up understanding the Chat GPT instead of us.
And at times, we are doing a lot of work in Chat GPT, and I have been a part of it. I can tell you, at time it happens because we are a text experts, we are giving a lot of advices. Now Chat GPT in LLM and prompt engineering, lot of work is happening around that as well, wherein we ask some questions which are technical and they answer it. People have started using those answer and replying to their client is something which is not correct, because at times if this is a wrong answer to it, and if the conclusion may be correct but in between some wrong paraphrasing has been there, so who will evaluate? Because that is actually which is important for the profession, that we should first read it thoroughly and specifically validate it from our sources, and then only we'll send it out.
We suggest any other AI-based methods or techniques available to test and improve our communication skills, written communication skills.
So there are a lot of tools which are available. Maybe I mean, a lot of generic tool which are available. Some of them are coming with the Microsoft itself. So I would suggest that some of the Microsoft approved tools which are there. Something like Dragonfly is one of them. So that can be used. As a Chat GPT tool for improving the language specifically.
The next questions: how to get rid of a dragon mindset that I may do grammatical mistake in English while communicating English?
Practice. The simple answer is practice, because see, we all cannot be from a background of somebody who has been studying in top level English schools. So there could be I mean, we are all chartered accountants, there could be a problem. Somebody might be able to draft out good mails in English. The only thing how we can improve upon it is practice. We, if are not able to draft out properly, we should use specific small sentences. Making small sentences is a key. I have practiced myself. Making a small sentence is a key. You see many of the documents now, you start realizing, from today you start reading, you will realize, many of the documents of a chartered accountants when they are filing an appeal, one sentence means the entire paragraph. So, we have to practice, start making small paragraphs. The smaller the sentence in that paragraph, lesser will be the mistake. So that is only the key what we have to follow.
Next question: what is meant by proprietary font that you have used in your slide?
Yeah. So proprietary font, by that I mean, some of the organizations developed their own fonts, which is possibly being, for, so, okay, I'm from EY, I'm a partner in EY. So I use my proprietary font, which is EY interest rate. So some of the organization may develop their own font. That is a proprietary font. By the proprietary font does not mean that you have to develop your own font. Suppose you use font Arial 10 normal font. So that is a proprietary font for your organization. It should not be that your one mail is going, what I meant was that one mail is going in the font of 10, one mail is going Arial 10, one is mail is going in the font of Arial 11, one mail is going from Arial 12. So generally, it should not happen. That is what I meant actually.
Next one is more of a suggestion. While sending an email communication, make sure to address the email ID only in the last after you have finished writing and edited your contents, so that there is no scope of any error requiring to say sorry subsequently and then sending horizontal. So
So in this, some people also, this is one of the technique that you don't write an address, but tell me one thing: if you reply back, if you press a reply all, so automatically the address will come in. How would you remove that address? So the technique for that also is that you put dot dot dot. You put 3 dots or 5 dots in the address bar, so the email will not go out.
okay. Is that appropriate?
Technically, yeah.
Is that appropriate to have smiling face while speaking before audience?
It is important to have a smiling face while speaking before the audience. Okay, so I will put in that way that it is important to show your gestures while speaking before the audience. Suppose I'm speaking to you and if instead of, today I'm speaking to you, I'm making a smiling face because the context is so that I'm smiling and telling you that, okay, the reason why I'll just give you one example, one very good example. Subhash Chandra Bose has said, "तुम मुझे खून दो, मैं तुम्हें आजादी दूंगा." That's a communication from him. And believe me, when he was saying this, उनकी आंखों में खून उतर आया and he said, "तुम मुझे खून दो, मैं तुम्हें आजादी दूंगा." लोगों ने अपनी नस काट ली. So that is what the gesture of the communication. If he suppose he is having a smiling face and he is saying, "Boss, तुम मुझे खून दो, मैं तुम्हें आजादी दे दूंगा." So see the difference. Better communication is what is the context in which you are speaking. Had it been the case, Subhash Chandra Bose would have been saying with a smiling face that things would not have been so कि लोगों ने अपनी नस काट ली, when he was saying with such a conviction and eyes is in blood and he's saying with such a conviction that तुम मुझे खून दो, मैं तुम्हें आजादी दूंगा, and people have started after him that, okay, we are there with you. So the context is, it depends upon how you speak, whatever you are speaking. Obviously it's not preferable to make, in professional life, it's always a smiling face when you are talking to the clients, but obviously it depends entirely upon the context as well.
The next ones we have an interesting question. How do I establish a personal brand, my own personal brand, when I'm joining my parents' firm?
So even if you're joining your parents firm, which is a orthodox question, that our chartered accountancy profession is such that generally I mean generation and generation would be chartered accountant. So it's a valid question for all those persons, those who are joining their parents firm. Even if you're joining your parents firm, you're joining as an employee, or you're in a job, you're working in a Reliance, part of the world, your personal brand can be created in any of the organization. If you are to give the context of, if you're joining your person father's brand or your family business or family chartered accountancy firm, the way you are communicating to your clients. So I have seen the orthodox chartered accountant firm, they communicate over a call. They don't email. They don't have an agreement engagement letters with them. It's all verbal that, okay, you give me 5 lakh rupees per year. There is no scope of work. Whatever works come in, they do that work. So suppose that person start having an engagement letters, working more professionally, asking specific questions, keeping the things on record, creating the folders of whatever the documents are being given. So that will start creating his own brand. So creating the brand means how you carry yourself. So whatever, how big your your parents chartered accountant firm is, when you are getting it in legacy, how you carry yourself, if you are able to communicate with your client properly, if you are able to carry yourself properly, you're dressing properly. Suppose you are going in a jeans and sneakers in an office, So who would respect you? You are a professional. I mean, you have to carry yourself. Suppose your parents, who are going to an office, they may be, going in a normal casual dresses, but you are maintaining that. You are asking your employees now that you are okay, you're now my employees, you should come in a professional dress, be well dressed, tie groomed, wear business suits and all. So that will create your own brand. It's very simple to create your own brand.
Next question. Has the development of the internet and social media caused a change in the way we communicate, quality, quantity, and style?
So I would say, to an extent, yes, it is. So the way the social media has developed, it is all both positive and negative. Everything, when it comes with the positives, also have some negatives. So the way the social media has developed, in last 2 to 5 years, specifically after COVID, we see that lot of content is available on social media itself. So a lot of people are creating their brands on the social media. Even if there are chartered accountants or some, in some other professions, they are, becoming a business speakers. We have not seen such a big, the business speakers or motivational speakers, in who have developed in last 5 years. So definitely, yes, it has impacted the quality as well as the quantity. Yes, but in a positive sense, I would say it has improved, but we should use in a positive manner. It has also diluted in the sense that now people have started wasting more time over this phones, watching TikTok, YouTube, etc. But yes, the positives also there.
In MNC, there is general observation that European counterparts assume themselves superior. I mean, the other country counterparts assume themselves superior and do not provide equal treatment. This may not be misconduct, but not a proper behavior. How this should be handled in professional manner?
So I may reframe myself from answering the first part of it, that European counterparts are not, are treating Indian companies, MNC companies, as a, as a subordinates or as a substandard people. You know, I would answer it very differently. I would say, first of all the MNC companies, those who are there, you see how much percentage of business they have in India. you know so somebody who's controlling, sitting out of Europe or Singapore, controlling the Asia Pac region. So if in India the entire company business is of say $100 million, if the 2% business is in India, obviously India will not be that important for them. Though in 5 6 years, last 5 6 years, we have seen that number has gone up. So in the India has also been placed as an important part for them. And we have seen many of the Europeans coming into India for their businesses or growing their business or expanding their business in India. So it is not, we should not get demotivated by thinking that they think us as a subordinate, or the issue is different. The issue is like, it's a first it's a legacy issue. We all know that, if I go to America, I mean, the treatment which I may get is very different from somebody who's traveling from France to America will get, right? So that is there. That's a perception. But of late we have seen that is going out. So that perception is going out nowadays. People from India are actually becoming the regional CEO, the regional CFO. I know many people, those who are from India, studied in India, now based out of UK, US, Singapore, and are controlling the regional part, which India is a part of it. They are controlling the Asia Pacific region. So the perception which was there, 10 years, 15 years back, has started getting changed. So my thought is, while it could be very specific case that European people might not, feel us or think us as a subordinate or substandard, but the way we will write, we will communicate, we will, in next 5 years, which we see India as a growth story, made in India, make in India, a lot of flagship programs which are going underway of the government. So that things will change automatically.
Not sure. So we notice that a team member never reaches out when they don't understand your message. How do we respond?
We understand the team member.
Team member never reaches out when they don't understand your message. So what if my
So,
team is not responding or not communicating with me properly? What would be
so see, if your team is not communicating properly with you, And if you are leading that team, so there could be two scenarios. One is that you are also at the same level, me as a same on a same level of that team, and my team is not coordinating with me. This is one situation. The second situation is I'm leading that team and the team is not communicating. I think you are asking the second situation where I'm leading and the team is not communicating with me, right?
Yes.
So if I'm a leader, I am leading, the team is not communicating. The the basic principle of a leader is to have a better communication with his team. If you're not able to communicate with your team, there is some problem with the leader itself. So if the team is not able to communicate, of the team does not want to communicate, it's about the leader. He has to understand how he should communicate with that people. And how he should communicate is basically he should start getting into that person. So for example, I go and I mean I have number of peoples in my team. So if I'm coordinating with somebody who is at a very junior level, I generally ask with my secretary that who is in his family, how are they placed. So when he's talking to me, I will generally ask some questions about how is your mother. I came to know that she was ill a couple of days back. You saying that will kill the situation. He will, your subordinate whom he's not communicating to you, you just go to him and ask him, how are you and how is your mother, she was hospitalized, I came to know. How's your sister, she got married and in US, I came to know. So that will make a lot of difference. You being a leader, you have to develop those leadership skills.
Thank you so much, Pankaj. So we'll wind up considering the time. So thank you
Thank
so much.
you. 5% is
Thank you for the simple and elegant
190.
presentation. So I request CA Mahindran, Treasurer of Tutukuran branch of SARC, to summarize the today's discussion.
Writing skills are important in ensuring that our ideas, plans, and proposals that can captured in an engaging and effective manner to influence our colleagues and superiors. Capture important information, aid decision making, and drive necessary action within your organization. Professionals with communicating effectively in writing can avoid significant manpower losses due to continuous writing, rewriting, correcting, and editing. From today's session, we have learned to explore some of the typical challenges that professionals have with business writing and identify principles and strategies that will help you overcome these challenges. Use writing prompts and mid-mapping to design effective written messages. Improve the use of this while writing by practicing various areas of punctuation, sentence correction, grammar rules, and tenses. Identify and apply useful protocols in email ethics. Improve our writing by paying attention to clarity, tone, and purpose, and practicing a variety of business writing messages with a number of templates for letters, reports, memos, etc. Thank you.
Thank you, Mahindran. So now I move on to propose the vote of thanks. First, I would like to submit my humble thanks to our today's speaker, who has presented who deliberates the seminar in a very wonderful manner. Thanks for that video. How many ever times we see that video, every time it reminds us how important that communication is. So thank you so much. You did a great job, and you understand, and you spoke to us very effectively. And thank you so much for your good communication skills. And I thank Chairman Dr. Anuj Goyalji, Chairman of the Professional Skills Enrichment Committee, for making this program a success. I thank the Vice Chairperson, C.S. Sri Priya Kumar, for her active guidance and organizing this. And on behalf of Thoothukudi branch, we thank you so much, ma'am. A wide round of applause and thanks to our speaker, C.A. Pankaj Jain, and to all other stakeholders who made the webcast a useful one. Finally, we would like to thank all of you present here, helping us make this webcast a memorable one. Thank you so much.
Thank you for calling. Thank you so much.